Hello, I'm Paul Young, your host, and with me is parent education expert, Stephanie Risley. Welcome to another segment of Surviving the Teen Years.
Thanks, Paul. The early teenage years are often stressful for both adolescents and their parents. Teens may be confused about the physical and emotional changes they experience, while at the same time, parents might be facing their own midlife crises. Or sometimes, parents simply worry about getting older when they compare their energy or lack of it to their child's youth and vitality.
And parents often worry that their kids will experience violence, negative peer pressure, become addicted to drugs, drop out of school, develop eating disorders, or even become suicidal in response to the many pressures and stresses they may face.
Well, you're right. Parents do worry, but most young people function well through the teenage years and go on to become contributing members of society. In this series of 10 videos, we will examine teenage behavior and help parents identify the issues that require serious intervention. We will look at ways parents can help their children grow into healthy adults.
Thank you, Stephanie. The topic of today's program is social development. Let's watch a teen as he interacts with his peers and then with his parents. Think about what you would do if you were in this situation.
Hey, your name's John, right?
Actually, it's Juan.
I almost got it right. Hey, I sit behind your 6th period history class. Did you study for that big test?
Yeah, what about you?
Nah, we had basketball practice, and then I stayed up and watched the movie on TV. But you can help me out, can't you?
Dude, he is last week's test.
Why don't you come hang out with us sometime? There's a big party at my girlfriend's house after Friday night's game.
It's gonna rock, man. Surely go.
I'd like that.
But you gotta help me out on the test later. Whenever I poke you in the back, you gotta move your arm so I can see the answers. Okay?
Okay.
Juan and the other boys have been assigned a detention for the next week. Juan, would you like to add anything?
Well, what do you have to say for yourself? Look at Mr. McIntyre when he is speaking to you.
It doesn't matter what I have to say. You won't understand.
Don't you dare make us to be the guilty ones. You're the one who did something wrong.
Juan, how can you do this to us? Don't you care about anybody other than yourself? Now the teacher is never going to trust you.
Juan, we know that you just moved here. And it's difficult to adjust. But you should know that at our school we have our expectations. And cheating is not tolerated.
I didn't cheat. They cheated off of me.
But you allowed it. It's very important that everyone learn to do their own work.
You don't have to worry, Mr. McIntyre. This will never happen again. Juan is going to be grounded for the rest of the term.
But there's a party this Friday, and some of the kids invited me.
Who are you joking? Your mother and I can't even trust you in the school. What makes you think we can trust you in a party?
Juan and his parents, Elena and Miguel, were unhappy with each other. They've agreed to join us today to discuss what happened and to work with our expert to find different ways of dealing with the situation you just witnessed. Please welcome Juan and his parents, Elena and Miguel, to the program. Juan was the new kid at his school. He let 2 classmates copy the answers to his exam. How did Elena and Miguel respond to Juan's behavior?
They freaked out. They didn't even try to understand why he did it.
Even if they, even if they listened to his excuse, what does it matter? Juan clearly did something that was wrong.
But isn't it important to find out why our kids do the things they do? I'm not supporting Juan's judgment, but how will Elena and Miguel help him with similar situations if they don't know what causes them?
Good question.
It's very important to talk to your teen. That way you can find out what he's thinking and feeling and why he acts the way he does. This helps many teens avoid situations and helps parents figure out why their child is behaving the way they do.
It sounds to me like Juan just wanted to make friends. It's very tough being the new kid in school.
When I was a kid, my family used to move every couple of years. I think for kids, school is where you find lifelong friends. For me, it was a very dull place.
I don't think what Juan did was that bad. All he did was want to fit in with the other guys. It's not like he actually cheated.
I know that Juan is a good student in history, and he wouldn't even need to cheat, but what he did was wrong. He knows better than that. I've raised him better than that, and I'm disappointed in him.
Was what Juan did that out of the ordinary?
Well, let's look at the context of the actual situation. This was Juan's third week at a new school, right? And we all know that peers are very important, especially during the early teenage years. Teens learn from their peers and they give each other needed support. Because of this, a child may try to win social approval at the risk of personal harm.
So in this case, Juan used poor judgment by allowing the two other boys to cheat off his exam.
Well, how can Elena and Miguel help the situation any better?
Parents need to help their teens consider the possible consequences of their behavior and to help them feel strong enough to stand up for themselves and not go along with something they do not want to do. Parents should clearly explain their expectations and why they have them. In this case, they could explain that they're concerned that Juan's cheating may lead to a pattern.
So instead of yelling at and grounding Juan, Elena and Miguel could have taken the opportunity to build his self-esteem by discovering his strengths that will prevent him from giving into negative peer pressure the next time.
That's right, Paul.
That sounds great, but what was Juan supposed to do? Be a dork and cover his exam? I mean, then he really wouldn't have any friends.
I'd rather go to the principal's office than not have any friends at all.
Stephanie, how could you teach a child to face the fear of rejection and to say no to something he or she knows is wrong?
Kids, even adults, give in to peer pressure because they want to be accepted and they fear rejection. Parents can diffuse a teen's fear of rejection by talking through the possible outcomes of an action. We need to teach our children to have the courage to do what they know is right. Help them see the long-term consequences of their behavior and that they'll have to live with their own conscience. Also, learning how to refuse is a very important skill.
So should we role play with our kids?
Explaining to a teenager why he or she should not do something is often not enough. Role-playing is very helpful in teaching a teen the skills he or she will need in resisting peer pressure. For example, you can role-play the situation in which your teen does not permit cheating on an exam. Act out the dialogue. Role-playing gives teenagers the skills and the words they'll need in any given situation.
But wasn't the real problem Juan's lack of friends? I mean, even if he had not given in to the pressure of letting the boys cheat, he still would have been unhappy.
Help your child understand that if one group rejects him for not going along, they're not really his friends. If he's patient, he'll make friends who'll respect his wishes and not put him into the wrong kinds of behavior.
Juan is a good son, but I feel for him sometimes because he's a little shy. He has a little trouble making new friends.
There is probably no other stage of life when the need for peer support, the need to belong to a group outside the family is stronger. Teenagers are becoming independent while trying out new roles and facing new demands from society as they experience dramatic physical and psychological changes. It's important to encourage and support your child's right to be an individual.
Is there anything a parent can do to help their teen make friends?
Don't fight your child's need to be accepted by peers. Remember that your teen's desire to be part of a group is a normal part of growing up. Without being intrusive, parents can help their children find friends with similar interests by helping them become involved in outside youth groups. These groups fulfill the need for peer group identification, and they give your teen security and self-confidence.
I've heard that there's some studies that show that children with high self-esteem are less likely to give in to negative peer pressure in order to be accepted.
It does help if you've taken the time to build your teen's self-esteem. Also, Be generous with your praise of behavior you like. And if your teen uses poor judgment when choosing friends, help them to think about why they chose those friends, and maybe next time they can avoid the same kinds of mistakes.
Juan's a good kid, and I know he's going through a hard time, but Miguel and I just remarried. We moved to a new city, and I've been very busy trying to adjust to myself. I'd like to help Juan adjust and make new friends, too.
I know I shouldn't have let those guys copy my tests, but next time I'll be more prepared to stand up for myself.
That's terrific, Juan. Let's summarize some of the key ideas from this section. In situations with our teens, we want to be understanding of the new demands placed on them by their peers, and we want them to make choices that will help them mature and develop into well-adjusted adults.
Number 1. The teenage years are a period in which young people have to adjust to new bodies, new feelings, new social demands, and peer pressure. Number 2. Teens who like themselves are less likely to give in to negative peer pressure. Build self-esteem by helping teens discover their strengths and special talents, and by genuine praise for the behavior you like. Number 3. Be sensitive to changes occurring within your teen. Talk to your teen to find out what he or she is thinking and feeling. Number 4, support your child's need to be part of a peer group. Help your teen become involved in after-school youth groups. Number 5, role-play potential negative situations to help your teens learn how to refuse negative peer pressure and to help them define their own values.
Would you like to do the scene over to try the new parenting skills you just learned?
Definitely.
Definitely.
Great. Let's watch Elena, Miguel, and Juan and see what they do differently.
Juan, we want you to know that we understand that you're having a difficult time at school making new friends.
It's important to have friends, and it's not easy making new ones, even when you're our age.
But just try to remember all the good things you have going for you. You're friendly and you've always done well at school.
Actually, I'm afraid there are a few guys who've already noticed that. Last week, a few guys tried to copy my answers on our pop quiz.
I think we need to discuss what will happen the next time they ask you to cheat.
Would you have a hard time telling them no?
Mm-hmm.
I understand that, but just remember, a true friend doesn't care about what they can get from you. A friend cares about what happens to you.
I know, but they're very popular with the other kids, and I don't want them to think I'm a jerk.
If you just stand up to them, they might respect you.
I don't know.
Juan, think about the consequences for you and them if you get caught.
I can tell them that they can't cheat off of me, and that I can study with them so that they won't need to cheat.
Hey, that's certainly worth a try.
Hey, your name's John, right?
Actually, it's Juan.
Yeah, it was close. I sit behind you in 6th period history class. Did you study for that big test?
Yeah, what about you?
No, we had basketball practice. Then I stayed up and watched the movie. But you can help me out later, can't you?
Dude, here's last week's test.
Why don't you come hang out with us sometime? There's a big party at my girlfriend's house after Friday night's game.
It's gonna rock, man. You should really go.
I'd like that.
You gotta help me on that test later. Whenever I poke you in the back, you gotta move your arm so I can see the answers. Okay?
I'm sorry, but that's cheating, and I can't do that.
But I'll flunk.
I'd feel bad about that. But I still won't cheat.
What? What a baby, man. Are you afraid of getting caught or something?
I don't think it's a good idea. We might both get caught, and then he would get in more trouble than me.
But what am I gonna do?
Well, why don't you tell the teacher that you didn't have time to study this week and ask if you can take a makeup test?
She won't go for that.
Well, why don't you ask her on our next break? If she says no, then I'll help you study during lunch. It would help me too.
You'll really help me cram?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take you up on your offer. Thanks.
Juan, Elaine, Miguel, how do you feel?
I felt good because I didn't have to worry about cheating. And I felt like Rick actually respected me more and liked me for standing up to him the way I did.
I'm very proud of Juan. I enjoyed talking to him about what he was thinking and feeling.
Helping Juan role-play solutions gave me the confidence in his ability to make decisions when we're not around, even when he's under pressure. I know he won't always make the right ones, but at least I know he'll try.
That's good. Now we're going to see another scene. Let's watch closely. Think about what you would do if you were in this situation.
Do you know what it feels like to have to pick up your 14-year-old son from the police station?
I knew we shouldn't have trusted you with those friends of yours. Anyone who dresses like that friend of yours with the nose rings and army boots is bad news.
His name is Jake, and he didn't know the other kids were going to bring beer. He doesn't even drink.
And are you going to tell us that beer the officer found in your hand belonged to someone else? Not to mention the pot, your clothes reeked of it.
The police believe me. Why can't you? I didn't do anything. I was just there.
Yeah, well, next time you won't be there. You're grounded from any parties for the rest of the semester.
You can't do that.
I just did.
And I also don't want you hanging out with that Jake and those boys with the baggy pants. They look like gangbangers.
Everybody wears that. It doesn't mean anything.
Your mother's right. I don't want you seeing any of them again. You just have to make new friends.
Kevin was at an unsupervised party broken up by the police. He thought he was guilt-free, but his mother and father found it unacceptable and disapproved of his friends. They've agreed to join us today to discuss what happened and to work with our expert to find different ways of dealing with the situation you just witnessed. Please welcome this family to our program. Welcome. How did Angela and Martin respond to having to pick up Kevin at the police station?
Before Kevin could explain anything, they assumed he was guilty and criticized his choice of friends.
Yeah, but I think they had a right to yell at him. Hanging out with the wrong crowd and having to pick up their kids at the police station is not exactly what most parents envision for their kids.
Well, if you lay down with dogs, you wake up with fleas.
You know, it would have only taken 2 seconds for his parents to ask what happened before they just started jumping on him.
Let's ask our expert. Stephanie, did Angela and Martin handle the situation very well?
Well, Paul, responding with confrontation and hysteria and threats is not a constructive way to deal with the situation. Teenage parties represent a difficult problem for parents. On the one hand, we want our teens to know that we trust them and recognize their growing independence. On the other hand, we also know that parties can quickly get out of control.
So how can parents prevent their kids from ending up at these parties?
Well, it's important to set ground rules about parties. The most important rule is that there must be some adult supervision. Just knowing that there are adults around can help teens stay in control and also keep out uninvited guests. Next time, Martin and Angela could call the parents of whomever is throwing the party to ensure that there will be someone there to chaperone. Otherwise, Martin and Angela might decide to have the party at their own house.
If I told my kid I was calling his friend's parents, well, he'd be mortified. He would think I was treating him like a baby.
That response is quite possible. But you can remind your teen that as a parent, you have a right to make sure he or she will be in a safe environment. Remember, too, that even though your teen may not like any of the rules you set for parties, on a deeper level, teens know that we set these rules because we care. And it is our caring, rather than the rules and limits we set, that our teens will remember and appreciate long after the party is over.
What about the way that Kevin's parents dissed his friends?
Yeah, I think they were totally unfair.
It's just that Kevin hangs out with these kids that they look so untrustworthy. You should see the way they dress.
Well, I don't know. If I was to judge my kids' friends by the way they dressed, I don't think that there'd be anybody left for him to hang out with.
Styles are different today than when our parents were our ages. Why is that so hard to understand?
Well, your teens or his peers' style of dress may not be the best indicator of their values. The teenage years are a time when teens experiment with style. A certain style of dress does not necessarily predict the type of behavior a teen will engage in.
It sounded like Kevin's friend Jake was a troublemaker at first, but he might actually be a good guy.
I have asked Kevin about Jake, but he just gets so irritated when I do, and that makes me more suspicious.
I can tell that she doesn't like him
because she just makes comments about his clothes or his nose ring. All she wants me to do is say something bad about him.
Get to know your teen's friends. When parents show interest in their teen's friends, their children are less likely to maintain a secret social life outside the family, and they'll probably be more open about any problems they have with their friends. Encourage activities in your house so that you can get to know your child's friends.
Okay, so what if you do all that and they still choose the wrong friends?
We shouldn't be too hard on our teens when they choose the wrong friends. We have all made this mistake. The important thing is to help young people reflect upon and gain some insight into their reasons for their choice of those friends. See what needs to be changed in their lives and help them figure out how to make those changes. They may need to build up their own self-esteem. Their friends can often reflect their own view of themselves.
In my family, we like to encourage our daughter to participate in activities that, teach wholesome values and morals, and then we help her find friends that are suitable.
Being understanding and encouraging positive attitudes is good insurance against your teen making the same mistake twice.
What about drugs? What can parents do about them? I mean, they're everywhere nowadays.
And we didn't tell Kevin, but we were most upset about the alcohol and marijuana at the party. That is one rule he does know. No drugs, no alcohol.
I mean this with all respect. Have you discussed Kevin's drug usage, or did you just kind of lay down your commandments?
I haven't been to a party this year where there wasn't at least someone carrying pot. But that doesn't mean every teenager's going to smoke it.
And what is the first thing that you should do if you suspect that your teen is using or has used some form of drugs or alcohol?
Well, try not to panic. In today's world, some children may experiment once or twice. Don't go crazy with a lot of assumptions and accusations. First, try to determine the extent of drug use by your teen. Sit down with him or her and discuss the potential dangers and consequences of using drugs and drinking. I mean, you can alert him or her to the harmful physical consequences of drug and alcohol use.
Instead of talking to me, my parents just lectured me and threatened to kick me out if I even touched drugs.
Well, parents should be concerned when they discuss drugs and alcohol. Jumping down your kid's throat will not help. If the teen feels he can talk to you in a reasonably honest way about drug use, you've removed one of the most common reasons for children to use drugs, to shock their parents into recognition that they are growing up.
I was kind of fortunate because my parents were really great when they were talking to me about avoiding alcohol, but I have noticed sometimes that when my dad comes home from work, he'll have a couple martinis and then he'll drive the car even if he's had a couple of drinks.
Well, the example set by parents is one of the strongest influences on how a teen will perceive drug and alcohol use.
I've also read that early alcohol use can lead to dependency and addiction in later life.
It's true. It's also very important for parents to examine their teen's environment and their own behavior. If your child sees you smoke and drink or drink and drive, he may feel it's all right for him too. If a teen sees his parents behave reasonably, he will too. Eventually, parents must realize that they are still the primary role model for their teens.
Martin and I don't drink or smoke at home. I think that's why I was so shocked that Kevin had a hard time handling that peer pressure.
Stephanie, is there something Angela and Martin could do to help Kevin resist negative peer pressure?
Well, encourage independence and decision-making within the family. Teens who are treated as responsible people in their homes are more likely to make responsible decisions away from home. For the more difficult situations, role-playing can be very effective. This helps your teen anticipate difficult situations he or she might encounter and how he would handle them.
Angela, Martin, how does that sound?
Let's give it a try.
Yeah, we want Kevin to be happy, and we don't want to have to worry about him every time he leaves the house.
Kevin, what do you think about that?
I wouldn't mind trying that. I didn't really want to do anything to upset my parents. I like my parents, but I just wish they'd trust me more.
Terrific. Let's summarize some of the key ideas from this section. As our teens become independent and are forced to deal with increasing social pressures, we want them to have the opportunity to make decisions that will keep them safe and foster responsible behavior.
Number 1, always lay down ground rules before a party and ensure adult supervision. Knowing that there are adults around can help teens stay in control and can keep out uninvited guests at parties. Number 2, if it becomes apparent that your teen is using drugs or alcohol, don't go crazy with a lot of accusations. First, try to determine the extent of drug use and then act accordingly. Number 3, discuss the harmful physical and legal consequences of heavy drug use with your teen. Number 4, examine what kind of example you may be setting for your teen when it comes to smoking, drinking, or other drug use. Number 5, teens who are treated as responsible people in their homes are more likely to make responsible decisions away from home. Number 6, encourage your child to anticipate difficult situations he or she might encounter and how he or she would handle them. Number 7, when parents show genuine interest in their teens' friends, teens are less likely to maintain a secret social life outside the family.
Would you like to do the scene over and try applying the things you just learned?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's watch Angela, Martin, and Kevin again and see what they do differently.
So, who's throwing the party tomorrow night?
Jake.
Will Jake's parents be there to chaperone?
I didn't ask him.
Well, we'll call and find out. That way none of us has to worry about it.
That'll be great. That way we don't have to worry about you all night.
Now, we haven't had a chance to get to know Jake yet, so what's he like?
Well, he doesn't drink or do drugs or any of that stuff. That's one reason I like him, really.
But if one of the other kids brings beer or pot to the party, are you prepared for that?
Well, I'll just do what we role-played and I'll explain that I don't do this stuff. If they continue to bother me, I'll just leave the party. I know that won't make my real friends like me any less.
And don't forget, if the party gets out of hand, you can always call us for a ride home.
I will. The last thing I want is for you guys to get a call from the police station. You didn't have to wait up.
Oh, it's a good book. Well, how was the party? You're home a little early.
It was cool. A couple other guys crashed it and brought beer. It was no big deal.
And?
It was generic beer. The stuff's pretty nasty.
Kevin.
Just kidding, Dad. I didn't have any. Jake's mom got rid of the guys pretty fast anyway.
Well, I'm proud of you, son.
I met this girl named Sabina. She was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about her.
Well, me and my friends, we were like talking.
Kevin, Angela, Martin, how do you guys feel?
It was easier than I thought it would be. I feel like we were preparing for future situations instead of just complaining.
Kevin, did you like the outcome?
Yeah, I was even surprised when a couple of my friends thanked me for standing up to those guys.
I think we all got something out of talking instead of panicking. We role-played some other situations with Kevin, and I was surprised to see he was a lot better at making responsible decisions than I had given him credit for.
Good. Let's put together the many ideas we've learned today.
Number 1, be sensitive to your teen's emotional and physical development. Number 2, build self-esteem. Number 3, talk to your teen. Number 4, encourage your child's need to be a part of a peer group. Number 5, role play. Number 6, lay down ground rules for a party. Ensure adult supervision. Number 7, avoid panicking. Number 8, point out the consequences of drug use. Number 9, be a role model. Number 10, encourage independence and decision-making within the family. Number 11, get to know your teen's friends. These 11 concepts can help your teen deal with social pressure and teach your child independence and responsibility. An excellent way to implement these new parenting skills with your teen is to keep a daily journal. Write down your thoughts and ideas on how you can keep your teen safe and happy while he or she makes new friends and becomes independent. Keep a written record of issues negotiated between you and your child, such as the ground rules for parties and rules about drug and alcohol use. Write down how you set limits, how you involve your teen in setting limits, and the consequences of certain actions.
We hope watching this video will help you with your teen, and we look forward to working with you again in our next segment of Surviving the Teen Years.